While Assassin's Creed Mirage is going back to the roots of Assassin's Creed, it seems unable to escape some of the newer open world design structure. In my 2-hour preview session with Assassin's Creed Mirage, I definitely enjoyed my time. Stealth is back as being a major focus for the game. The new tools are fun to play with as you tinker with the enemies, but there are still many questions left to be answered. Let me know any questions you have in the comments down below and I will answer them the best I can. So most of the footage you're seeing in this video is from my own playtime, so the bad gamer you are watching is actually me, and while any cutscenes and like menu footage is provided B-roll, as we weren't allowed to show any of our own cutscenes and story stuff that we do capture. For the preview, we were dropped in around a third or so through the game's story with some tools and skills unlocked and a target that we had to find and assassinate. The first thing that I noticed with the city of Baghdad, where Assassin's Creed Mirage is set, is that it is beautiful. It is a fantastic backdrop for an Assassin's Creed game, especially one that is touting returning to those roots. You know, it feels like old school Assassin's Creed. There's plenty of verticality for parkouring as well as side streets to slip down, and it's not just in the actual city itself, it's in the people as well, who are vibrant and they move around and they talk to each other and they also interact with you, whether that be if you pickpocket them and you may get caught, you may get away with it. If you do get away with it, they will actually eventually check their bags, and if you're still around the area, they'll notice that you did it. Or if you have a high wanted level, they may notice you because of the posters around that area that have your face on it, and they'll point you out to the guards, so the guards will chase you. Or even blending in with the people, which is back, so you can now blend by sitting on a bench or just standing near a group of people, and that sort of fluidity of the blending is there. So as long as you're near those people, you can sort of keep walking and moving around in that way. And I found that this interactivity with the people in the city and even with the guards as well added a depth to the city, which I think is something that was missing from, say, a Valhalla or an Odyssey in the different areas, as you know, because those games are so wide in size, it felt at times that, you know, some of these locations you come across were very similar to others, whereas because of the limited setting here being only in Baghdad and the surrounding sort of outskirts of the city itself, you know, they've really packed a lot of interactivity with these people inside the city and areas that you can interact with, which I do quite like. But we played at 4K on PC natively, and I did just enjoy getting some like cinematic shots, like sailing along the river or like riding mounts. Like I enjoyed just sort of taking in that city, especially the lighting with the time of day as it changes. It was really quite pretty just to sort of look at. And the performance as well was really quite smooth. You know, there was a couple of hiccups here and there, but you know, for a preview build, that previews typically don't perform well, so seeing that it does perform really well is definitely a good sign for when the full game does come around. So the wanted level is something that's really interesting in AC Mirage. So at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you'll often have like a wanted level that'll show up, which is sort of specific to the area and that you're in, and the higher that level goes, the more different guards that will actually spawn, and posters will be put up as your wanted level goes up, and people in the streets will actually point you out to guards. And I found this quite interesting. Like, you can pull down the posters to like lower your wanted level, but it made me think about things in a different way, and a bit more of a dynamic way, as I'm just sort of running around the city. You know, if I'm at a lower wanted level, it doesn't really matter that much, and I can just sort of sprint around and do whatever I like. But there was one time especially where my wanted level was maxed out and I was just being hounded by guards, and it was like trying to get away, and like I was like stealthing, did some blending and did all that stuff, and you know, eventually people did spot me and I did get away. But I enjoyed sort of that interactivity that felt a little, you know, dynamic because of the decisions that I'd made to, you know, steal a bunch of things and that sort of a thing. The map is littered with icons and collectibles, as you may expect, and I also noticed there's some sort of like a rank system in each of like the zones. So the city and the outskirts of the city are like split into these zones, and there's some sort of a rank system. I don't exactly know if that's like a level or something. We weren't really shown it or explained it. I just noticed on that screen where you like look at the screen, as you would probably remember from like Valhalla, when you're looking at regions and you've got like the collectibles in those regions, there's sort of like some sort of a rank listed there. As you're exploring the city, you will also come across like side missions, or Tales of Baghdad they're called. The one that I did was help a kid that sort of wanted to be a part of the hidden ones and like teach him how to do a leap of faith, and that was pretty fun. Like, I sort of enjoyed that little side interaction. It was very short sort of quest. Like, I got some materials materials from doing it, but it was a fun little interaction. But some of those chatting animations when you're talking to people still seem very stiff and sort of jaded as you're both just sort of standing there. And being the smaller size here, I would have liked a bit more interactivity in some of those sort of dialogue moments, because being a smaller, more condensed experience with Assassin's Creed Mirage, I would have liked a bit more interactivity and sort of movement in those scenes than just the two characters sort of standing there talking to each other. But that's a minor thing. Like, you know, I still enjoyed the actual dialogue and the story there. So back to the roots is the marketing catchphrase for AC Mirage. The roots here seem to be the focus on stealth being like the actual ability to assassinate people and one-shot them, and the tools are absolutely a key part of the game and the system, more than actually frontal combat like using your sword. So the tools are bound to your right trigger and your left trigger buttons. Now, these can be anything from like, say, throwing some sort of like bomb to distract enemies, or like a smoke grenade, that sort of thing, or throwing a torch to start fires, or even you've got like this dart that you can throw, like a throwing dagger, to instantly kill enemies from range. So this being bound to your left and right triggers sort of comfortably fit into being the main focus here. Like, you sort of instinctively use these first before thinking about just like attacking with like your sword. So to attack with your sword, it's actually bound to RB, and there is also an LB, which is like your parrying system. So this might be like the roots, right? Sort of like involving in stealth and the instant assassinations, but there is definitely still the tree present here. There's a lot of Odyssey and Valhalla still in Mirage. Like, let's say you do want to engage in full frontal combat, like with your sword and your dagger. For some reason, they have damage stats. Like, you can view these in the inventory screen, and you can actually upgrade them at the blacksmith as well. And it seems like there's slots to get different weapons too. And I was a little unsure why exactly this is. So stealth being the main focus here, it seems unintuitive that you've got the ability to upgrade like a sword and a dagger, which you're not really using that much unless you specifically want to, which in a way you can if you choose to attack enemies in that way. But if you do have like a frontal, like, you know, one-on-one sort of a fight, there is the parry mechanic. So with LB, you can parry enemies' attacks, and if you stagger them by like parrying the attack at a perfect timing, you can instantly kill them. So I don't know why you would have the weapon stats, right? If I could parry the attack and then instantly kill them anyway, like, why would I bother upgrading those weapons? And like, what's the actual purpose of them? Like, it could just be because, you know, I've only had 2 hours with the game and I don't rightly know yet. So that's definitely a question for the full game that I'll definitely explain when we get to that point. But I was just sort of like, I feel like I was missing something there. Like, if I could instantly kill people from stealth and I can instantly kill them in combat, why do I need weapon stats, and why do I need to improve those weapon stats? I just wasn't really exactly sure what the sort of connection there was. But the parry mechanic is quite enjoyable though. Like, I found that parrying enemies' attacks was very satisfying, and then triggering like the instant kill. I did absolutely enjoy that when, say, I was trying to stealth and like I just got seen, and, you know, sort of a typical fight broke out, which is something that always happens in these sort of stealth, you know, orientations, where occasionally you get spotted and then you have to like have like a full-on frontal attack. And the combat was a little cumbersome, but the parry mechanic definitely is satisfying and fun to use. And then even you can use those tools in combat to, say, like throw smoke on the ground, which will have enemies lose you, and then you can still like assassinate them because they can't actually see you. So I did enjoy playing around with those systems and how they interact with the enemies, but seems to be a couple of questions there that maybe I just don't understand, but I'll definitely have an answer for you once the game is officially out. So the progression system in AC Mirage comes down to a couple of things. So in the inventory screen, you've got dyes and costumes and things that you can wear. We've already touched on the weapons, both having a weapon damage. There's also a defense damage, and the ways that you can upgrade them via the blacksmith with materials you find in the world. We were mentioned that there is a microtransaction store for cosmetics. We didn't actually see it, but it was told to us that it is a thing that exists. Outside of that, there is a skill tree system. So there are 3 skill trees. Each specializes in like a specific thing. So they were called Phantom, Trickster, and Predator. And while I don't remember exactly what each one did, just based on my notes, the Phantom tree was more like stealth orientated, the Trickster tree was to do with your tools, and the Predator tree was to do with your eagle friend, which is absolutely back here as well. So you've got that eagle that you can summon to survey the area, and they will definitely be able to mark targets for you, all of that typical Assassin's Creed things. Outside of that, you can also upgrade your tools. So you've got those multiple tools, and each tool has a tier that you can unlock, and inside those tiers there are 3 different like buffs that you can pick from, so you can only have one active at a time. So there is some build flexibility and freedom of your playstyle here. Say if you're going like a trickster route, focusing on tools and the certain upgrades you can get from that, or maybe the Phantom sort of being more of that stealth orientation and doing multiple stealth kills, that sort of a thing. But I'm a sucker for progression systems. I always want to know how they work and what skills are and what they do and if they're tangible upgrades. And it does seem like here in AC Mirage, the skills are absolutely tangible upgrades. And while it is a smaller skill tree than maybe we would previously expected from some of the previous games, I actually kind of like that. Like I like that there's less options here, that they are a bit more tangible upgrades. So when you are investing in them, you're getting something that actually feels meaningful rather than say like just small stat increases or something like that. This next section is considered spoilers, so jump to the timestamp on screen if you want to skip this section, but I've avoided all of the major story spoiler stuff. They just wanted me to specifically call that out. The main focus of our play session was to investigate and find our assassination target. Now, I actually really enjoyed the hunting for details and finding out the target, as this wasn't like a linear experience. We didn't actually know who the target was, and we can't actually say or show you sort of too much about that for fear of spoilers of the story. But essentially we were in a big market called the Bazaar, and we had to find these clues and information about who the target was and then attend an auction. And there was a potential way that I could either buy a specific item that she was looking for, but I didn't have any money, so I had to go and then steal it and then use that as my entry point. And there were different ways to interact with this. Like there was your typical sort of currency of coins that would have helped me in terms of bribing people or actually being able to purchase the item myself, which I didn't have any coins. But there was also tokens. So there are different forms of tokens that are essentially like a currency you can use to interact with the world, and they're earned by doing contracts for like the hidden ones and other ways as well you might find them in the world. Some tokens you can use to open chests, some tokens you can use to say bribe people like merchants, say a merchant token to like give you information, or there were tokens you can get to tell mercenaries to actually attack the guards, essentially as a way to distract them so that you can access certain areas, or you sort of keep them off yourself. And having that flexibility to engage in this like major mission in the way that I wanted to, I really liked, and it helped keep me interested in what was happening in the mission and trying to find that person and access a different area. Though I absolutely screwed up the assassination. I was like let access to like the area where the person I was trying to assassinate was, and I figured that meant I could just like walk in there because they let me in, but I seemed to like trigger the event where they like immediately just like attacked me. But you know, I did end up assassinating the person, so it was all good. It seems like that interactivity, as well as the dynamic events of how people interact and being able to complete things in a different way, or not necessarily just telling you exactly where to go, right? Like having to find out information yourself and piece things together is a little different, and I absolutely enjoyed that. That was one of the things I enjoyed about some of the other Assassin's Creed games, is when missions don't tell you exactly where to go. You've got that sort of exploratory mode, and that does seem to be here, but in a different way, how you can piece these things together, learn information, find your targets, and then once you have found them, whether you're using those tokens or bribing or stealing or figuring that out. But I really want to see how these missions are different, as it's just like one specific assassination that we did. You know, there are multiple that we'll be doing throughout the game. I'm very interested to see how they are different, and if these sort of interesting ways of doing these missions are also consistent across the board in the full game. So that's one question that I would definitely like answered with the full game. And the other is Basim as a main character. I don't have a lot of connection with Basim. I never found him to be a very interesting character in Valhalla. Personally, that's on me if other people did. Like, I just didn't connect with him, and spending a full game with him as a main character, I'm interested to see if he can carry that journey throughout the story. And speaking of that story, like, we don't know a lot of specifics about it. We weren't told much, as well as, you know, whether we can, you know, use the Animus and current day stuff, no idea. But there are a lot of questions left answered, and especially that weapon loop and progression. I really want to understand how that works, and I'll definitely have an answer for you once the full game comes out. But overall, like, I enjoyed my time with Assassin's Creed Mirage. I think classic Assassin's Creed fans will absolutely find enjoyment here in the full game when it does come out, and I'll definitely be playing the full game, and you'll have my thoughts here once I do have it. But Assassin's Creed Mirage to me feels a bit like a safe game. Like, Ubisoft isn't breaking the wheel here. It is a innovative Assassin's Creed game in that it is returning to the roots of assassinations and stealth, but it's nothing necessarily new that we haven't seen before. And that might be a good thing for you, that might be a bad thing for you, but it's something to call out here is that while Assassin's Creed Mirage is a beautiful looking game, I am very interested in the emergent gameplay that will come out of interacting with the city itself and the wanted level and the characters there and some of the missions design and structure. And that may be a good thing for you, or that may be a bad thing, right? Like, it depends on how your history with Assassin's Creed is, but I am definitely keen to play more, and I am very interested to play the full game once it does come out. Let me know any questions you have about AC Mirage. Did this video make you more excited or less excited? Sound off in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.